Welcome back to the Money Pit Podcast, brought to you by Goodwin Investment Advisory, where our mission is to lead people to financial peace, independence, and generosity. Again, I'm your host, Reid Trego, and today I'm joined by our founder, Tim Goodwin, for a discussion about parents who worry about their adult kids' debt.
Yes.
Tim, great to have you back.
Yeah, excited to be here. You know, I'd like to interrupt this regularly scheduled program. Do people know that your nickname is Rico around here?
I don't know.
Yeah. We like to call you Rico. Sometimes Rico's Suave.
Yeah.
Would you like to tell the audience how you got that nickname?
Well, I don't know. It just seemed like the right thing.
Is the SD card full? We can't record anymore. Sorry. This is a bad recording.
I don't know. I always thought it was funny. My name is Reid Trego. And if I were Hispanic, it would be Reid Trego or Rodrigo. And Rico seems smart for that. Or short for
even
that.
See, we're all about simple around here. So, yeah.
Well,
why call you Reid Trego and we can just call you Rico?
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
so
good.
It's pretty funny. That's where probably, I don't know.
I remember that you had a little saying there for a little while. Rico works for you.
That's right. So, Rico works for you at gmail.com.
gmail.com.
That's right.
All right. Sorry. We can get back to what you're talking about. Parents who are aware and care.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Aware and care that their adult children have a lot of debt, like credit card debt.
Gosh. Yeah. Well, okay. So we go through this whole pandemic, 2020, 2021, 2022, and people for the long, our savings rate as a society rose dramatically.
Amazing. Finally. Yeah.
People couldn't go spend any money. So people finally saved some money, and that was great. But you know, the spring back effect, it always
regresses to the mean.
Yeah, it always does. And even when we see the stock market, boom, take a big dip, it comes back generally like a rubber band or a springboard. And here we go with debt, credit card debt. Now at an all-time high. You were looking up some stats earlier. Tell us how bad it is.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why we thought this would be super relevant to talk about. So according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, total consumer credit card debt reached $1.03 trillion in the second quarter of 2023. This is up from $986 billion in the first quarter of 23, which still sounds like a huge number. And it represents the highest level of credit card debt on record. So, Reid, why do you think credit card debt is so high?
Well, I think just kind of thinking economically, you have inflation.
Yes.
That has certainly caught some people off guard. However, a lot of folks that had student loans weren't making payments over the last X years.
That's a good point. So there was some COVID relief for that.
Yeah, you would think that would, I don't know if it evens it out or not. Probably not, because a lot more people have credit cards in debt than student loan payments, but I would go with inflation is probably a factor.
Yeah, just because your regular expenses have increased because of inflation. So you're kind of maybe using that credit card debt to make up the difference. Credit card debts love increasing your available credit line. You can have multiple credit cards. And this is something we were talking about before, is that they are really great at aggressively marketing to you and somehow making you feel smart for having these credit cards or being a part of this community or being an active credit card user. So,
well, you want to establish that credit.
You want to get that credit score. Yeah. Dave Ramsey thinks a little differently about that. But yes, it depends on who I'm talking to, how I'm talking about that. But having a good score can certainly help. But if you're getting a good score and you're having, what is it called? Reoccurring debt on your credit card, like you've got that balance that you're not paying off, then it's maybe something that's not worth it.
Revolving.
I was like, oh man, I'm so close. Yeah, revolving.
If you have a good credit score, it means you're really good at managing your revolving debt. But it also...
you're just really good at paying someone else interest.
That's right.
The way.
Yeah, they're really happy, so they score you well.
Yeah.
But also, it is nice to have a good credit score because when you go get auto insurance or home insurance, you're going to get a preferred rate.
Right.
Typically.
So you've got all kinds of issues. So I can imagine like a grandparent or a parent that is aware of their grandkids or their adult children with this debt are feeling like, well, one, you're destroying your credit score and that's going to makes certain things harder for you. And two, it's just overwhelming. I mean, it's super duper stressful. So when I've been there, I don't know if you have, Reid, but my wife and I, we got into major debt when we were, newly married. I mean, we liked all the debts. We gave all of them a try, We had furniture debt, student loan debt. We had 4 maxed out credit cards. I don't know if I mentioned medical. I think we had a third mortgage on our house. That was possible back in the day. And so, yeah, we had built quite a mess. We had $250,000 in consumer debt before we started having kids.
Okay. Well, that was a good start.
Yeah. We were so good at getting into debt. So, but actually speaking of kids, my wife Maureen got pregnant with our first daughter, Kanan, in 2008. And that was a wake up call for us because we're like, we have got to figure this out because we want to be able to bring our child into a kind of healthy, lesser stress, lower stress finance environment and really be able to teach our kids how to win with money. And we were having trouble figuring it out. So, which was a huge pride pill for me to swallow because I started my company before then, this company as a professional investment advisor, managing people's money. So I was certainly much better at managing people's money in the stock market than I was at managing my own budget. So
I was going to say,
can you relate to any of that?
I can hire you. I hired you in 2008 and you didn't mention that.
Oh yeah. It wasn't that we're like, hey, I'm Tim. No. I have all this debt. Yeah.
No. Can I relate? I remember coming out of college and I had maybe $1,000 on a credit card. And I remember thinking, why would I pay it off? They only send me a bill for $35 a month.
What a deal.
I'll just pay the $35 a month. Why would I do that? And I probably had the money to do it. But I was like, why? And then my wife was always very diligent about it. Although she probably had a little credit card debt, but probably had to. I mean, she had just fallen behind a little bit in college, but it was her highest priority to get that paid off as soon as she got out of school. So no, never got weirdly. We didn't accomplish as much as you did. Either time, building up the debt or reducing the debt.
So extreme. Yeah. Right. Go big or go home. So, the kind of turnaround story for us was actually our small group got involved in Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. And we just decided to go all in and do that. It took us a while. It took us 6 years to pay it off, but we did. And, we were so grateful for that. So let's kind of turn back to, again, if we're kind of addressing the parents and the grandparents who don't need to be convinced to get out of debt, they know that they either were there and got out of debt and know that feeling. And that's how you start winning with money, right? So I talked about in my book, don't let interest go both ways. You're trying to pay off the debt over here, but you're investing over here and you're spread out and all these things. So we do really feel like it's important to clean up that debt and then you can really exponentially build wealth. So Reid, if I'm a parent and I'm worried about my adult children and it seems like they got a lot of credit card debt and it's stressing them out and I want to help, what do I do? How do you approach that? Sensitively.
Yeah. I think you can go to them, you can express your concern, you can be empathetic, but at some level that comes across to kids as nagging.
Yeah, it's hard.
It probably just takes, like you experienced, you got to get sick and tired, or you've got to somehow, I don't want to say mature, but it's what I mean. Get awareness enough that you go, I have a child and I need to not have that much financial stress in my life or something like that.
Yes. Where we got to.
Yeah. And I think maybe they have to get sick and tired
of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can share a story. You can share your why story. Hey, this is something this is the reason we stayed out of debt or we were in debt and this is why we got out. So I think being able to share your why story, your experience. But otherwise, you could certainly share materials. Like a lot of folks love giving Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover book for wedding gifts or birthday gifts. And, maybe they're not ready. Maybe they're not sick and tired of being sick and tired yet, but maybe eventually they are. They read that book. So there's a lot of different hows and tools out there. But I always love starting with why and sharing that why story for sure. I will also let you know that here at Goodwin Investment Advisory, one of the things that we celebrate because we track it and it's important to us, is how many generational clients we have. So we have over 50 clients where we have 2 generations that are technically clients. And then we have maybe 3 or 4 that it's 3-generation clients. So really talking with grandparents, parents, kids is very, very important to us. And so I will say that one strategy, I didn't even think about this until now before we got on the podcast, but one strategy that I realized some of our clients will do is that they will bring their kids in and we will talk to them. And so now you have kind of like, I don't know, Switzerland neutral ground. Hey, do you want to come like meet our financial advisor? So maybe you like your financial advisor and you think, hey, you know what? Maybe if I bring my kids, they can have a conversation, or you can just kind of get them introduced to it. So now the professional is asking them questions, about their financial situation. Maybe it's uncovering this debt. Maybe if it's a good financial advisor, being like, how does that debt make you feel? Like, do you really feel like you can win with money this way? Let's figure out a plan for that. Maybe it's getting basically somebody else to say what you want to say.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Well, I had a couple that came in and met with me, and they brought their two kids, like 16 and 13.
Right.
And afterwards, I had some follow-up emails and back and forth, and the mom finally came back and said, my daughter thought that our meetings were really, really interested. Do you guys have any internships available? I'm like,
man,
my gosh,
what a cool
right?
compliment.
I know.
All right, well, listen, I got to give your wife a shout out.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So we just had, it's Monday, and Mondays around here is an all staff meeting. And so Reid's wife, Christy, was in there, and she, last week on Friday, she met with one of our clients' kids and did some coaching with them. And I think it was specifically geared around YNAB.
An adult child.
Child. Thank you for being clear. So YNAB stands for You Need a Budget.
Not wine app, which is different.
YNAB. So
YNAB, You Need a Budget.
One of those two. But, and really had a great time with her. And I guess Joe has since talked to the client and the mom of the adult child and said that it like brought her to tears, how much she appreciated us, meeting with her adult child and coaching her on that kind of stuff. So
that's amazing. Mm-hmm. And I know the situation. And here's the other thing I want to bring up. The way I talked a few minutes ago about how to address your kids when they've built up a bunch of debt, I was really addressing maybe the careless child, right? Who did something. There are certain people who end up in a lot of debt due to life events.
Right.
Illness, divorce.
That's true.
Job loss, college, all these things do this too. And those aren't necessarily careless activities that resulted in that. So in that case, you have, let's say, those parents who are going, wow, my son, he's really, really responsible, but had a divorce, had a health problem, whatever. Now let's talk about how a parent would address that.
So I think it depends on how open they are to getting advice from the parent. Right. But again, like if you're bringing them in with the financial advisor, then the financial advisor can kind of sit down, like you're saying, maybe go through the baby steps, maybe take an assessment, try to figure out. Sometimes you can get overwhelmed. I love to quote this this quote from Lord of the Rings where Bilbo Baggins said it was like butter spread over too much bread. And I think you feel like you get spread too thin, right? Unless you're laser focused. So I think advisors are really great at doing that. Let me take let me get everything laid out on the table that's going on. Okay, let's prioritize. Let's start with this, and then we'll get to that one, and then we'll get to that one.
So rather than the 37-step plan, maybe you have like 2 or 3. Let's do this first.
And there may be 37 steps, right. But we all know that our brains can only handle so much, and advisors here understand that. We are very well experienced and educated in investor behavior and in psychology, and so we really just try to make sure our clients are only working on like 1 or 2 things at a time. Come back, we'll get to the next 1 or 2 things. It may take years of that until you get through the list.
Probably, hopefully. I mean, you want an ongoing relationship with clients, right?
Exactly.
We just recently released an episode, Meet Financial Advisor Ray Brown.
Yes, yes.
Really, really interesting. He's such a great guy to talk to, but he talks about, I think, getting out of high school, his parents gave him the total money makeover. Right. He goes to college, builds up some credit card debt, and finally somehow comes around and is like, oh, here's this book that I never had time to read. So, and again, from day one, I think this kid was born responsible, right? I should call him
pretty responsible.
He's a full-grown man now. He's in his 30s. But I think he was born responsible and funny. And so I think, it was just, it's good. You just got to circle back around and come back to that total money makeover or whatever.
Yes, it will circle back around eventually, so I think just being there to be able to provide them with those tools, that story, circle back to the why. The great thing is there are a lot of really great tools. There's great books. There's great programs to go through. There's great conversations, great advisors. There's a lot of help for folks that are trying to get out of debt for sure.
And so much more content. My wife and I were talking about this now. Like we would have done things differently when we were first married 28 and a half years ago. But that content there were no podcasts. There
Gosh,
wasn't even
so much
internet,
content now, and tools and classes and books. It's great.
Yeah. And I even think about my kids, both plugged in, one's still in college.
Yeah.
One's newly on her own, both plugged into YNAB.
Yep.
Not the Wine app. May have that too. The Wine app, you need a budget. It's a budgeting app. We did an episode about it with Alicia. It's totally awesome. People love that episode. So go back and listen to it. But it's good when they can get plugged into these things early on and you have this information that we never had. I didn't know. I just didn't know.
So to recap, again, if you are a grandparent or a parent and you are aware and care that your adult child or grandchild has a substantial amount of debt, I think you really think about that. You pray about how to approach that. And maybe something you have to be very gentle about where you're just kind of like, hey, check out this book. It's super helpful. Or maybe you're sharing a podcast with them. Maybe you have an opportunity to kind of share a story, your why story, why you feel like it's important for you to either have stayed out of debt or have gotten out of debt. And then the last thing I would share is maybe consider having them meet with a financial advisor or your financial advisor, and maybe offer to pay for that time as a way to kind of motivate them to go. So I think it's really super cool if you're listening to this episode and you've gotten this far because you really do care and you want to come up with some ideas to help. And I really think that you can. And like you said, Reid, I think there's a lot more resources and tools out there to help than there were before.
Nice. Great. Well, Tim, thanks for being here again.
Always a pleasure.
As financial advisors, we manage and rebalance portfolios, but the unique value is that we work to understand our clients' individual goals so we can have these types of planning conversations that are so personal and unique to each individual. Again, thanks for being here, Tim. And if you want to subscribe to our blog, text blog to 66866 or go to our website, goodwininvestment.com. Goodwininvestment.com. It's singular. And click schedule a call. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
The Money Pick podcast is hosted by Reid Trego, a financial advisor at Goodwin Investment Advisory. This podcast is intended to share information and perspectives, but should not be interpreted as legal, financial, or tax advice. The opinions shared by participants are not necessarily endorsed by the company. Goodwin Investment Advisory is regulated by the SEC, and the company operates in compliance with applicable securities laws and regulations.